Deserts are captivating landscapes defined by extreme temperature swings and minimal rainfall. While these unforgiving environments push life to its limits, they also nurture the unexplained. Shockingly, around 1/3 of our world is classified as arid or semi-arid. Iconic deserts like the Sahara, the Gobi, and the Great Basin are among the most well-known. Still, deserts aren't just endless sand seas. Antarctica and the Arctic rank as the world's biggest cold deserts. These regions challenge not only life, but also science. Some mysterious huge structures are believed to be evidence of aliens and divine existence. So join us for today's video as we're going to count down the 15 bizarre desert phenomena that scientists want to explain, but can't. Let's start off with number 15, the Atacama sinkhole. In August 2022, something opened beneath the Atacama Desert, and it wasn't a mystery for long. A sinkhole, 36 meters across and plunging 200 meters deep, tore open the earth in Chile's Copiapó region. Located at the Alcaparrosa copper mine, the sinkhole looked like a portal to another world. At first, officials downplayed it. No injuries, no major damage. But the silence around its cause raised eyebrows. The likely culprit, mining operations. With tons of wastewater pumped underground and aggressive extraction practices weakening the terrain, geologists now suspect the collapse was a long time coming. Water at the bottom of the pit further confirms the theory: human-induced instability, not just natural decay. The mine, owned by foreign companies with deep international ties, denied responsibility. Legal actions were threatened, investigations launched, but updates have been scarce. If this was an isolated event, maybe it'd be buried in the news. But with more reports hinting at additional collapses in the area, the desert may still be hiding more than just minerals. Number 14, desert glass. Scattered across the Libyan desert are chunks of bright yellow-green glass, natural, pure, and ancient. Not man-made, not volcanic. Just there. Some pieces weigh several pounds, and one was even carved into a scarab for King Tutankhamun's burial chest. For decades, scientists had no idea how it formed. But one thing was clear: it wasn't from Earth alone. This glass has no volcanic origin, nor is it the product of sandstorms or erosion. The current leading theory: a meteor exploded in the atmosphere above the desert, unleashing a heat blast hotter than lava, flash melting the sand below into glass. This wasn't a gentle event. It was violent, intense, and instantaneous. And the result is just spectacular. A smooth, gleaming relic of a cosmic collision. There is no crater remaining, just the glass. It's beautiful and unsettling, a reminder that Earth is still exposed to the universe's random fury. In one of the driest, most isolated places on the planet, the sky once came down in fire and left behind a glowing signature. Is it beautiful? Number 13, desert locusts. No storm devastates farmland faster than a swarm of desert locusts. These aren't just grasshoppers with a bad attitude. When the right environmental switch flips, they undergo a terrifying transformation. Normally solitary, these insects become social and aggressive and multiply rapidly after heavy rains follow droughts. As the land blooms briefly, they feed, grow, and release pheromones that attract even more locusts. Bodies elongate, wings lengthen, and suddenly you've got a plague on your hands. One swarm can number in the tens of millions and eat its weight in crops daily, enough to feed 35,000 people. In 2020, such infestations tore through East Africa and Yemen, causing over $8 billion in agricultural damage. The worst part, these insects respect no borders. They move with the wind, crossing countries and triggering food crises in some of the world's most vulnerable regions. Satellite tracking helps, but access to remote or conflict-ridden zones remains limited. Until long-term climate patterns stabilize and prevention systems improve, desert locusts will keep proving that nature doesn't need teeth to be deadly. Number 12. Bleeding sand. You're walking through the desert, the sand crunches underfoot, and then you see it, a stretch of dunes stained deep red as if the ground itself is bleeding. No, it's not rust or some weird Photoshop filter. In parts of Egypt's Sinai and Australia's Red Center, sand has been found to ooze blood-red moisture after flash rain. The reason? A rare type of iron-rich bacteria embedded in the soil, which reacts violently when activated by sudden moisture. The red liquid isn't blood, but it's close enough to make your stomach drop. Under the microscope, the bacteria twist and swell like microscopic serpents, creating crimson trails as they seep through the grains. For locals, it's long been tied to curses, battles, and biblical omens. For scientists, it's one of those moments where geology and biology shake hands and say, "Let's mess with people." It's not common, and when it happens, it looks like the desert is alive and mourning something ancient. Number 11. Desert lightning. In most places, when lightning crashes down, rain follows. But deserts have a different rhythm. Here, lightning strikes often come with zero rainfall, triggering what's known as dry thunderstorms. These electrical storms flicker violently across the sky, crackling through the air, and touch down with nothing to quench the flame. The result? Spontaneous wildfires. In places like Arizona, Namibia, and Central Australia, dry lightning is responsible for thousands of fire outbreaks every year. These storms form when upper atmosphere clouds carry enough moisture for lightning, but the heat near the ground vaporizes any rain before it can land. So all you get is sound, fury, and ignition. Desert lightning is dramatic, dangerous, and eerily beautiful. And to make things even weirder, in the Atacama, scientists have documented blue jets upward lightning that shoots into space. Fire from the sky without a single drop of relief. It's nature on the offensive, silent, dry, and ready to burn the world from the top down. Number 10. Precariously balanced rocks. They don't look real. Massive boulders resting perfectly on tiny points like nature's own Jenga towers. Precariously balanced rocks defy logic, gravity, and sometimes belief. They're found in deserts across the globe, from Utah's Goblin Valley to Zimbabwe's national parks, where one even became the face of the infamous $100 trillion bill. These formations aren't modern art or ancient monuments. They're geological anomalies sculpted by erosion, glacial movements, or sheer coincidence. Some appear so delicately placed that a breeze could topple them, yet many have stood for millions of years. Scientists love them, not just because they look cool, but because they're stability markers. If a PBR is still standing, the area hasn't had a significant earthquake since it settled into place. That makes them natural seismographs, preserving the quiet history of the Earth's crust. But sadly, humans aren't always as patient as nature. Some of these rocks have been destroyed by vandals for internet clout, robbing both the landscape and science of something irreplaceable. Number 9. The hum of the desert. For centuries, travelers across the Sahara have reported hearing an eerie, low-frequency hum echoing through the dunes, something between a groan and a distant rumble. At around 110 decibels, it isn't subtle. It's loud enough to make the ground feel alive. Early accounts blamed everything from restless spirits to underground monsters, but science eventually caught up. The sound, it turns out, is created by sand avalanches. When specific types of dry, fine, and uniform grains tumble down the slip face of massive dunes, they don't just fall, they resonate. That resonance stacks and amplifies, forming layered air cushions beneath the moving sand. As those cushions collapse, vibrations surge outward like deep desert music. The frequency isn't determined by the dune's size, but by the grains themselves. In 2010, researchers in Paris recreated the effect in a lab using layered sand beds, confirming what nomads had known for centuries: some dunes speak. Not every desert has this hum, but once you've heard it, silence never sounds quite the same. Number 8. Desertification. Desertification is what happens when land gives up. And lately, it's happening a lot. All over the globe, from the Sahel to central China, once lush or semi-arid areas are turning to sand. It's not just drought, though. The real villain is us. Centuries of overgrazing, deforestation, and poorly managed farming have stripped the land bare. Without vegetation to protect the soil, wind and rain do the rest, eroding away the topsoil and leaving behind sterile dust. Nearly 2 billion people now live on the edge of dry lands at risk, and as populations grow, the pressure only intensifies. Add in climate change, shifting rainfall and rising heat, and you've got a perfect storm. Some efforts, reforestation, smart irrigation, and sustainable land practices are fighting back. But it's not a quick fix. Desertification spreads quietly, inch by inch, until the damage becomes permanent. It's not just about land dying, it's about people losing their homes, their food, and their future. And unless serious global action is taken, we're going to be chasing sandstorms we created ourselves. Number 7. Dust devils. They sound menacing, and they look even worse, but dust devils are usually more show than danger. Still, that doesn't make them any less wild. These spinning columns of hot air and dust appear suddenly, often in the hottest parts of the day. All it takes is intense ground heat, cool upper air, and dead calm winds. When those align, the ground breathes upward in a violent spiral, lifting dust into a swirling column that can stretch over a kilometer high. Most are harmless, but some can pack enough punch to knock over light structures or sandblast the paint off cars. And Earth isn't the only place they show up. Mars has its own massive dust devils, far taller, more powerful, and caught on camera by NASA's rovers. In fact, they're sometimes helpful, cleaning solar panels during missions. Still, the fact that similar storms exist on a planet with no breathable air and barely any atmosphere makes you wonder just how universal is this strange little tantrum of wind and heat. Number 6. Dust storms. When the desert decides to move, it doesn't tiptoe. It roars. Dust storms, towering, suffocating walls of Earth, are nature's way of throwing a tantrum. One gust is all it takes. Suddenly, sand whips up from the ground and spirals into an airborne monster. These aren't the cute flurries you've seen in movies. Some storms, like the Heboob in the Sahara, stretch nearly a mile high and blot out the sun like a blackout curtain made of grit. In the Arabian Peninsula, the Samum blows through like a furnace, hot enough to burn skin and choke lungs. The name translates to poison wind, and it's earned every syllable. But the most infamous dust storm didn't happen in Africa or the Middle East. It struck the American Midwest in 1935, the Dust Bowl. Thousands fled, hundreds died, and topsoil turned to the sky. In deserts, the land isn't dead, it's lurking. And when the wind howls, it reminds you just how alive and hostile this world of sand really is. Number 5. Sailing stones. Deep in the scorched silence of Death Valley's racetrack playa, something weird is happening. Rocks, some small enough to toss, others heavy enough to wreck a toe, slide across the cracked desert floor like they've got somewhere urgent to be. There are no strings, no pranks, and no explanations for years. These so-called sailing stones have puzzled geologists for decades. The tracks behind them prove they're moving, sometimes stretching over 1,500 feet, but how? Well, under just the pretty right conditions, rare thin sheets of ice, shallow water, and light wind, they skate across the playa like nature's slowest figure skaters. It doesn't happen often, and it's so subtle that it's rarely caught in action. But when it does, the desert momentarily becomes a stage for a quiet, eerie phenomenon that looks supernatural but is stunningly real. The kind of mystery that doesn't need exaggeration to give you goosebumps. It just needs a stretch of empty land, a cold morning, and a few restless rocks that refuse to sit still. Number 4. The desert glow. By day, the Arizona desert is a brutal oven, sunburning everything with no shade in sight. But once darkness falls, something strange begins to glow. Out in the sparse wilderness, certain species of fungi light up with a ghostly greenish hue, an eerie bioluminescent shimmer that looks like it was ripped from a fantasy novel. But it doesn't end there. Bark scorpions, the kind you definitely don't want crawling into your boot, also glow bright blue under UV light thanks to a natural fluorescent compound in their exoskeleton. No one's exactly sure why, either. Some think it helps them detect light or confuse predators, but the truth is, it's still one big glowing question mark. This odd dual phenomenon, glowing mushrooms and UV-reactive scorpions, turns parts of Arizona's desert into a surreal light show. It's equal parts beautiful and unnerving. Out here, even the darkness has secrets, and some of them are lit up just enough to remind you that the desert never really sleeps. Number 3. Flash floods. Deserts are supposed to be dry, right? That's kind of their thing. But when the rain finally does fall in these regions, it doesn't soak in like you'd expect, it explodes. The sun-baked, rock-hard soil can't absorb moisture fast enough, so water rushes across the surface, building momentum and sweeping through ravines, gullies, and dry stream beds like a liquid freight train. These sudden surges, known as flash floods, are devastating. They come out of nowhere, often minutes after the first drop hits the ground, and they don't discriminate. Cars, roads, campsites, even entire towns have been swallowed up in minutes. Deserts like the Atacama, Sonoran, and Negev are all guilty of pulling this stunt, especially during rare but intense storm bursts. The worst part? The sky might still look clear above you when it happens. It's not just a freak event, it's a deadly trap set by terrain and timing. You expect heat in the desert, sure. But what might kill you is water, way too much of it, all at once. Nature is like a Russian lady who just looks and kills. Number 2. The Eye of the Sahara. Well, this one is pretty out of the world. Buried in the western Sahara, like a forgotten cosmic fingerprint, the Eye of the Sahara, also known as the Richet structure, is a massive 40-kilometer-wide spiral etched into the desert crust of Mauritania. From ground level, it just looks like dusty ridges. But from space, it's a perfect bullseye. For centuries, it was just a landmark for nomads crossing endless dunes. Then came the space age. Astronauts aboard NASA's Gemini missions spotted it in the 1960s and couldn't stop staring. Initially thought to be the scar of a meteorite impact, scientists later found out it was sculpted by natural erosion, an uplifted dome of rock slowly chiseled down by wind and time into concentric circles. Even with the science behind it, the eye still feels mythic. Some even believe it's the location of Atlantis. Whether it's a natural marvel or a forgotten ruin, one thing's clear: the Sahara isn't just a blank canvas of sand. It's holding memories carved deep into the crust, waiting to be read from the sky. Number 1. Sahara and hurricanes. It sounds like a contradiction. The Sahara Desert, one of the driest places on Earth, has a hand in stirring up some of the most violent hurricanes that hit the Americas. But it's true. High above the scorched sands of North Africa, hot desert air clashes with cooler, moist breezes from the Atlantic coast. This turbulent zone spawns something called the African Easterly Jet, a high-altitude wind stream that rolls westward like a volatile atmospheric conveyor belt. When this jet wobbles or weakens, it causes storm clusters to form. These thunderstorms, riding westward on warm sea currents, can evolve into full-blown tropical cyclones. In fact, many of the deadliest hurricanes to ever strike the U.S. began their journey as a humble patch of instability above the Sahara. So yeah, while the desert may look lifeless on the ground, its influence in the sky has the power to reshape entire coastlines thousands of miles away. The Sahara doesn't just burn, it breathes storms. If you've enjoyed this video, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you in the next one.